There's a crisis of missing and murdered women and children of indigenous backgrounds. They've made it very difficult for us to live our lives in this era because of their violence, because of their racism towards us Canadian women.
Ma, come outside, there's a fucking moose!
Being indigenous is not easy.
Where the fuck are you going?
Not when you're being faced with adversity and responsibility, taking action in a world that it is against women and children. I see this in action every single day. Firsthand. As an indigenous woman with 3 indigenous girls, I am very, very concerned about what this country has planned for our women and children.
Back to my channel. I love you and the divine
Not like
loves
what
you.
I see.
We are in beautiful NWT, my darlings, my honey child. I hope you're doing well today. Mwah!
Right?
Oh, be careful what you say. You give yourself away. Also that you won't live to see tomorrow. Secret agent Sherman, secret agent Sherman. They give you my number and take it away.
Trap us. Standing up against these people that think that they can trap our women and our children into situations of violence. The rebellion has begun. The children do see the changes and the effects of violence on the families. They see that.
To let you know that you're going to get everything that you want from the Holy Spirit. Yes, I'm carrying
The women are busy figuring out how they're going to escape these situations.
To bless you today with money,
In
abundance,
order to
happiness,
sharpen
and
our
joy.
sense of
I love you.
justice,
And the
we need to
divine loves
have
you. So
participation.
here that Holy Spirit is pouring you a giant cup of coffee today. Hey, welcome back to my channel. And I'm here in Yellowknife, Canada. This might be significant for someone. Yes, the dragonfly represents eternity. And I'm here, and Holy Spirit is here to tell you today that you are achieving your goals at the rate of infinity. Yes, infinity and beyond. It's time to get me a coffee. I love you. Hey everyone, I'm out for a walk today. I love you. Mwah.
The first official event that I went to was held in Market Square in Kingston on June 21st, the day now referred to as National Indigenous Peoples Day. Among those making presentations were representatives of the Native Women's Association of Canada, who had launched the Faceless Dolls project the year before. It was the first time that I had the opportunity to view the panels of Faceless Dolls, and looking at the rows upon rows upon rows of dolls, I absolutely took my breath away. But remember the context. You can pass by the panels and experience a deeply challenging issue that's reflected in a somber art display. Or you can really take in the enormity of it all, understanding that every doll is faceless because the women and girls they depict are gone. Their cases remain unsolved and they remain practically forgotten by society at large. We can feel to the very depths of our being that each of those dolls, each of those statistics is representative of a mother, daughter, sister, aunt, or cousin. And looking at the faceless dolls, we can
This
feel
is too much to
the
bear
pain
sometimes.
of family members. Like Nicole's mother, Eleanor, who lives right here in Kingston and is with us this evening. She still waits for her phone to ring with a clue or news that someone has been charged in her daughter's death. Many family members live in hope that the ringing phone will mean that a loved one has finally come home, or the news that no one wants, that a body has been found. This is the daily reality that these families face, a reality represented in each one of those dolls. I knew as I stood in Market Square that day that my journey in politics, at least to some extent, was being cast. I resolved to do everything in my power to effect some much-needed change and justice for Indigenous peoples. We know the stark picture painted by the statistics. You've probably heard them before. 16% of female homicides are Indigenous women and girls. This is astonishing when you consider that Indigenous women only make up 4% of the entire national female population. I know, right? Context.
If we're only 4% of the population, 60% of our women are being murdered. What is going on? Makes me so upset.
16 times more likely to be murdered than Caucasian women, and 3 times more likely to be sexually assaulted than non-Indigenous.
It's guaranteed to be sexually assaulted. Every single time I go out there, I have to protect myself against men.
Following that event in Market Square, I boarded the 4 panels of the Native
This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
to increase the awareness on this tragic subject. I took the panels
Increasing the awareness is not enough in this case.
and I was really surprised to learn how little was known about missing and murdered Indigenous women. These visits were emotionally overwhelming for all who were present. The most riveting and challenging conversation that I had during our visit was to the Islamic Center of Kingston. A young boy of about 10 years old of age was in attendance. And I was torn when I saw him. I didn't know if I should sanitize the conversation for him. Should I make it age appropriate or continue as I had throughout the tour, informing as many people as possible about the horrendous statistics? I decided to push on. The stark numbers attached to this dark subject filled the mosque, while my heart kept going out to that 10-year-old boy. What was he thinking? What was he feeling? When I concluded, he raised his hand to ask a question. He wanted to know why we couldn't do something to set up a buddy system within our community so that if a woman needed help, somebody would go and get her. Beautiful. He not only got it, but he offered a solution out of the mouths of babes. He also got the context of the situation, that it is unacceptable. The woman clearly had to be protected, plain and simple. We know the danger that exists for Indigenous women, but it is not just the responsibility of any one person, agency, or organization to look out for them. The solution is up to all of us. We have to work together with Indigenous people to get it right. Remember this legacy that I spoke of when I first began this talk, which resulted in the fracturing of family relationships and the enormous challenges created as a result. There's little wonder that some Indigenous women seek refuge by leaving their home and family environment. They attempt to escape. It can be such a toxic situation as well and become a nightmare of addiction to drugs, alcohol, or worse. In his work, The Scream, part of the historical context goes back to and gave rise to this legacy of despair, and that's captured beautifully by the work of the artist Kent Monkman. In his work entitled The Scream, there's a portrayal of the pain and anguish that's been inflicted on Indigenous peoples as families and communities are irreparably torn apart, the result of a government-sanctioned policy designed to take the Indian out of the child. I was once present when a child was apprehended by the CIS, and I can tell you that no matter what the underlying circumstances are, that moment absolutely ripped my heart out. Imagine being present when not one child is being taken, but a whole village. Compounding this tragedy was the fact that no one knew the abuse that those children would suffer, with many of them never returning home. During my service as the Parliamentary Assistant to the Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation, I had the opportunity to travel to Chapleau, Ontario, for the signing of a tripartite treaty agreement between the Province of Ontario, the Government of Canada, and the Chapleau Cree Band. While en route to the signing ceremony, our hosts asked if I wanted to see where the St. James Residential School had been located, and I said yes. As we traveled along the Razor Strait Highway, they pointed out to the site where the school had been, now just a clearing of well-kept mown grass with a thick, ominous forest standing behind it as a backdrop. Then they asked if I wanted to see the school's cemetery. You heard me right. The school's cemetery.
The squaws.
I pulled over, got out of the car.
They call it the squaws cemetery. Ah.
Marking the spot. We went through the gate and down a little hill and around a corner. No piece of land on which I have stood through all my years on this earth spoke to me as poignantly as did that piece of land. It was as if each little grave was a gaping wound in the earth, and it filled my chest with a sickening, raw, and shameful grief. The place was stifling with an acrid emotion. It was hard to be there. What I found most disturbing was where the cemetery was situated. Caretakers of those sweet little innocent children chose a spot concealed from public view, away from the road, down a ravine, and out of sight, to bury the dead, their students. Round stone markers. Some graves had a more formal stone, but not many. A canoe located in the cemetery symbolized paddling the star journey from Earth to heaven. Where the warm winds blow gently on our canoe paddles. May the moccasins of your small feet make happy tracks. And may the rainbow always touch your shoulders. We can no more make Indigenous peoples in our own image than we can reverse time and undo the damage that we inflicted upon them. What we can do is make it incumbent upon each and every one of us to discern and discover our own way to reconcile with Indigenous people through working together with them in order to keep Indigenous women and children safe.
With
The
them.
sad legacy is clear.
Not against them. Not trying to control them, not trying to control the situation.
And worst of all, we ripped children from their mother's arms.
Right? Over and over and over again. They're still doing it now.
Legacy of hope, healing the wounds of history, and not resting until every Canadian truly understands and accepts the concepts of reconciliation in their hearts and in their minds.
Right?
We need to accept the historical wrongs that were committed.
They can't keep putting it outside themselves.
May be renewed for generations to
They
come.
can't.
Building a legacy of hope cannot be contained in a one-time act or simply declared
No.
within the observance of a nationally recognized
No.
single day.
They cannot just start up a class and start up a meeting and be like, there, we did justice. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. The conversation is not over.
The context
Commitment.
we want to create for ourselves is that we become unfailingly familiar with the vulnerable around us, beginning right at our front doorstep. It will mean something different for each of us, but a starting point, become familiar with the 231 calls for justice enumerated in the 2019 federal report and adopt 1, 2, 5, or as many as you can. It's imperative that we prioritize the safety of Indigenous women and girls, uncovering the systemic and social causes that make them more
Starts with the
vulnerable
women
to
then.
violence. Each one of us
Because they're the
can
most damaged.
and must play a role. Justice Mary Sinclair
They be
Simpson
angry
describes the mission before us and the
for
heart
rightful
of the
reasons.
legacy we hope to build and that we're called on to build. And he said, starting now, we all have an opportunity to show leadership, courage, conviction in helping heal the wounds of the past as we make a path towards a more just, more fair, and more loving country. The subject of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls no longer need be a footnote in Canadian history. It needs to be the title until we can stem the tide of new cases.
Well, they need to start giving our women title then.
Because it speaks to who we are as a nation.
Give them the job they want. Give them the education they want. Not what you have left. Not what you have available, but catering to her needs according to what she wants to do with her life. Giving her the resources and the money that's necessary in order to obtain those goals.